Justified in last week's anxiety-ignoring rebound, the markets came out of the weekend ready to celebrate after Joe Biden was called as the next president of the United States. Though the winners of Georgia and Arizona are yet to be announced by all the major news outlets, Democrats' success in Pennsylvania and Nevada was enough to push Biden past the magic 270 mark in terms of electoral college votes. However, the incumbent is Donald Trump, and he doesn't like to lose, which means the real test for the markets is going to be the coming days and weeks. The president is showing no signs of conceding, and enough of the Republican Party is willing to back up his baseless claims around voter fraud that persistent legal challenges are inevitable. The seriousness with which such challenges are pursued and their perceived chances of success, slim, but you can't really discount a right-wing Supreme Court, could come to undermine the market's recent gains in the days and weeks that follow. It is why, though the election has already been called, what happens in Georgia and Arizona is so potentially important. The more electoral college votes Biden can accrue, the more difficult it will be for Trump and his cronies to manufacture enough outrage to overturn the entire election. For example, say if he does manage to overturn Pennsylvania, which seems incredibly unlikely, but, could still happen given the makeup of politics in America. If Biden has won Georgia and Arizona, that won't change the outcome of the election. So the results in Georgia and Arizona could be key in terms of how stable the markets are in coming weeks. Obviously, that is complicated by the fact that Georgia especially is going to do a full recount, and the fact that Arizona could still be trending towards a Trump win, two things that could potentially destabilize the markets in light of the recent gains. In the slightly longer term, a COVID-19 stimulus package could potentially arrive before December 11th, which is the deadline for more funding, though that assumedly require a concession for Trump rather than the circus we're in for. If not, then federal aid would be delayed until January 2021. The size of the package, meanwhile, will be dictated by who holds the Senate. Again, something that isn't clear at the moment because of the need for runoff votes in Georgia this January for not one but two different Senate seats. And then there's COVID-19 itself. Buried under the exhausting election headlines of the last week was news that the US crossed 100,000 new daily cases for the first time after being warned of such months and months ago, only to repeatedly break that record, culminating with 126,480 new cases on Friday alone. The country is now only a day or two away from hitting the 10 million reported cases total, which is astonishing. It also remains to be seen how long investors can continue to ignore the rapid expansion of the pandemic stateside, and what a southern sour incumbent who remains in power, sadly, until January will mean for efforts to curb its growth. For those wanting to look beyond the election this week, it's slim picking stateside, really. The JOLTS job openings reading is on Tuesday, with inflation and unemployment claims on Thursday, and then consumer sentiment on Friday. That does really mean that the election aftermath is going to unavoidably remain at the top of sort of the schedule in terms of investors' focus, especially if Trump shows no signs at all of conceding and these legal challenges start to mount up. As mentioned as well, it does feel like only a matter of time before COVID, claws its way back to the top of the pecking order and sort of forces investors to pay attention to what is a really increasingly ugly situation in the US. We've had the period where Europe became the epicenter of the pandemic once again, and that the various lockdowns that followed and the market reaction, more importantly, that followed with those horrible losses at the end of October. It's going to be interesting to see whether that's the same thing that happens in the US, though the chances of some kind of nationwide or even statewide lockdowns are imperiled by the fact that Trump is going to remain president until January next year.